Hello and welcome to Health Digest. I'm Ukemere Tokwa, and it is great to be your host on today's edition of the program. Health Digest is your one-stop program that aims to keep body, soul, and mind feeling good and definitely optimizing your health. On the program, we speak to the experts, to ensure that our facts are obviously checked well. And we also look at the international scene to see what's happening in the medical field on the global scale, and we also scale it down to our communities and, of course, our nation at large. So the month of March has had so many exciting days. It was World Water Day, and we had a chat with the head of UNESCO Nigeria to look at World Water Day from the angle of gender, what women go through, and how paramount that, element is exactly water. That's correct, H2O, if I remember correctly. It is quite important. Also in the month of March, was Hearing Day as well as Speech Day. Also in the month of March was Hearing Day as well as World Speech Day. That's correct. And we started certain conversations, but we did not complete it, and that's what we're going to be doing today on the program. We're going to be discussing a little bit more on hearing, speech, the connection, and what exactly you can do, from conception, or, if you're already in the world like you and I, what you can do to manage that or to manage a loved one. And as you know, we were speaking with the expert, and he's back here with us again. We're going to be speaking with him in just a little bit. Before that, let's take our health news.
Health experts and critical stakeholders in the global health sector have consistently maintained that donor budget code for health financing, particularly for HIV, tuberculosis, and malaria, risks reversing decades of progress, causing millions of preventable deaths. According to them, the court disrupt critical services, create medication shortages, and force health facility closures in over 25% of low-income countries.
One important thing to also note is sustainability at the heart of everything. We cannot continue to outsource our health. Whatever it is, it's like mortgaging our lives and giving our children and our own health to other people to sort out for us. If you deal with health, if we as a country prioritize the health sector, all other areas of all other development infrastructure, all of those things, they are important, but they will be improved upon as well.
Recent reductions in donor funding have led to significant losses across the public health workforce, hence the need for increased domestic funding.
The money that is being appropriated, what proportion of it actually come into the health sector, and what proportion of it is even used for what was intended for? For me, it's a very good thing that donors are going. Let us start looking inward. What can we achieve as a nation?
Health is a business for all, and if you are safe and your neighbor is not safe, you are still not safe. So we encourage other states to bring out their own blueprints and look at areas where they can sustain themselves.
They call for improved efficiency by reducing existing silos that have emerged from programmatic funding and by promoting more integrated, efficient, and sustainable implementation of surveillance laboratories. Dimas Nanzung, AIT News, Abuja.
Welcome right back. I told you I had the expert in the house, Charles Ogoke, speech pathologist, Sunset Speech. Yes, he gave us the insights. We had the the ABCs of World Speech Day as well as World Hearing Day. So today we're going to be getting a little bit more in depth. So let's get straight to it. Thank you so much again for joining us.
So thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. So we're going to do a very quick recap in bullet points of 5 on each, on hearing and on world speech, as at what we did last time. So bullet.
Okay, thank you. So I would want to start with the hearing. I want to build on the hearing loss, the type, and the causes and the prevention. So the hearing loss, I mentioned earlier that we have what we call conductive hearing loss when it is in the outer ear, which affects the eardrum and also the auditory canal, the opening in the ear due to wax impaction, or people tried to clean those wax and they push those wax backward and it will trap the eardrum and the air passage to the eardrum, because the job of the eardrum is to amplify sound received from the opening of the ear. So, or it can be perforated using cotton board, using maybe anything to clean the ear. And when that happens, also within the ossicles, that's the 3 smallest bones in the ear, collis, malleus, equus, and stapes. So when that happens there, we call it a conductive hearing loss. We also have inner ear. So inner ear, that is where we have the cochlea, we have the vestibular system. That is the part that actually helps us to have our balancing. So then, in that inner ear, we call it sensorineural hearing loss. So it can be caused by when there is too much of a loud sound, then infections, and what have you. So now, let's just check what causes hearing loss. One is wax impaction, as discussed already. Number 2 could also be accident. It can be a motor accident, it can be a fight. We said last time that speech is the ability to actually use sound and words to communicate. And it's always a challenge when the speech individuals begin to have a speech and language problems, because hearing and speech work hand in hand. Because the brain that actually controls the ear and speech is called the temporal lobe of the brain. So, and when someone is actually having ear problems, it also affects the speech and language. And that is why you see that some symptoms, which we'll discuss later, you begin to see that the person will be asking you to repeat what you're saying, turning on one side of the ear to receive the sound. And even the speech, the voice quality will reduce at the same time too. So we actually have several speech problems that affect individuals to, live a full functional life. Like we have those with apraxia or speech, is a motor speech problem. We have those with articulation disorder. We also have those with speech language delays, also the speech language disorder. So, and they face a whole lot of challenges in the society, and that's why we're discussing the World Speech Day, so that the society will know how to support these individuals with speech and language problems. It's always a stigma, it's always discrimination, it's always mockery, even in the classroom, even in the church, in the mosque, even in the offices, it's always a problem. So we're here to actually roll out strategies that the government can, take in the schools, the public places, the society, communities, then even in the office environment to support individuals with speech and language problems.
Thank you so much for that recap.
Thank you.
I like the fact that you say we're breaking down this stigma to ensure that people better understand. Okay, now I want to know, what is the connection between the two?
Okay, the connection between the two, it's just like I said earlier, is that there's a brain that controls the speech and hearing, and that brain is called the temporal lobe of the brain. This is what it does. The brain will receive the sound from the ear, because ear doesn't know what it's hearing. Ear transports sound to the temporal lobe. Temporal lobe receives the sounds, discriminate them and interpret them. So, but once there is hearing problems, an individual, the brain is not able to receive the sound needed, then that's going to be a speech problem too. That is the connection. And those born with hearing loss, maybe total deafness, will essentially will not be able to use their speech. They can use language but not speech. Yes, because they use sign language instead of using the verbal speech. So That is where they come together. For you to gain the meaningful speech and language, you must actually have a proper hearing. Yeah, so.
For you to be able to utilize
Properly.
both effectively.
Yeah.
Now, I'd like to understand, are there some technologies, medical technologies available to aid speech therapy as well as hearing? Are there, like I said, are there therapy sessions? Are there, technological devices that could aid this? Or is this a case that can only be managed?
We have several devices, but permit me to actually, within 1 minute, to highlight the signs of hearing problems from delivery. So one is when a child did not cry at birth, is showing that there's actually a symptom of the speech or the hearing problems. Then when
you don't think it could be the pain receptors as well?
Largely, it's a symptom of a speech and language problems, largely. Then number two here is that when you are calling someone from behind, the person is not answering you. It could be a symptom of a speech and language problems or even the hearing problems. Then when someone can only respond to you when he or she is facing you, the person can be doing what we call lip reading, watching your lips movements to guess what you're saying. Then in the classroom as a teacher, when a particular student is asking to repeat what you said earlier, then it's actually a symptom of hearing problems. When you need to speak very loud and for the person to hear you, is actually a symptom of hearing problems. And when the person is turning one side of the ear to show you that this is the ear I can actually hear when you're talking to the person, it is a symptom of hearing problems. When the person is actually isolated because the person has problems to actually communicate, a symptom of hearing problems.
Some people suffer from what you call stammering.
Of course.
Is it categorized as, a speech issue, or where would you place it? Delay, dysfunction, where would you group that? And is this something that can be corrected, or is this something that is permanent? What causes this? Is this from birth? Is this something that is acquired?
Okay, stammering is a speech disorder, not a language disorder. We call it disfluency when the air pressure needed to actually communicate is being interrupted from the brain. The brain is not damaged. The brain is not having any damage at all, and it can be congenital. So the child can be born that way if that's actually hereditary, like maybe
I love
the
the
parent.
amazing jargon, but you need to break down congenital.
Okay, hereditary, maybe there's a family history of stuttering. So the person can actually acquire it from birth. Maybe daddy from paternal, maternal history, maybe great-grandparents that happened, it can actually reoccur again. Then another one can be actually acquired. A child can actually be close to someone that stammers, maybe in the school or listening to other people's stammers, it can actually be acquired, even after stroke. Yeah, so some individuals, I see that a lot. I have several patients that stammers, not because they do stammer prior to the stroke, but after stroke, they begin to stammer. In my clinic today, and where I was working in the hospital today, I battled a lot in terms of stroke patients who acquired stammering. So after the stroke episode. So it can be acquired, it can be congenital. So, and there are some children who make mockery of other kids when they are talking because they stammer. Systematically, brain will absorb that and they start stammering. There are remedies to that. Sometimes it can be permanent, sometimes it can be managed, or it can even be eliminated, depending on the degree of that. So, or early intervention. So when we notice that, we do recommend early intervention, but may I let you know that not everything we actually assume as a stammering is actually stammering. What to call cluttering. People who talk up to 10 minutes, they will not breathe. Like exaggeration. They talk extremely fast. It's called the cluttering. But the stammering are those who do have some jerkings, they do struggle to actually say some sound on words, and, the symptoms are very obvious. So what we do is that when we observe that, we can actually, call the parent attention to that, or also, if it is in case of the stroke, we know what to do already. We have actually treated so many patients with stammering, and they are very free from that. We still have those that reduces to the barest minimum. Yep. So, but there is no devices that they should use. We teach them code techniques that actually cope with that speech disorder.
Thank you. Thank you so much for clarifying those details that are quite common when it comes to the issues of hearing and speech. In fact, I have seen some interviews, well, not Nigerian ones, of people that have had strokes and woken up speaking different languages. How true is this, or is this just for clout?
I didn't get your question.
There's some people that have mentioned the fact that they've had stroke and it has caused them to speak different languages that they usually would not speak. Is this real, or is this a myth?
It's actually very rare, but it happens, but very rarely. When stroke occurs, it's disoriented brain. Some part of the brain will be damaged. And, the language area of the brain is called the 1X area of the brain. That can actually be damaged. So, but in a very, 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 very rare case. But sometimes when you trace that history, you will see that the person might have actually been exposed to such language before, maybe while growing up. Yeah, but it's a very rare condition.
So your brain pretty much just recalls something that is already there and projects that. Yeah. All right, thank you. So I'd like to understand, when it comes to hearing and speech, how can schools, better manage and create an enabling environment for students to still thrive with this different, these different personalities and milestones as well?
Very lovely question. One is screening upon entry.
Okay.
So before you admit any child or any student, please do hearing screening. And this is where we want to plead with government to make a policy and enforce a policy whereby both at birth and also both at school enrollment, there should be hearing test for every individual going to school. That will also help the school to detect. We have audiologists that actually carry out those hearing tests, right? So that will, if they cannot bring those medical experts to the school, they can partner with schools to refer the students to the hospitals rather, to refer them to the hospitals where the hearing test should be done. That will help the school to detect if the student is experiencing hearing loss or not. Number two, when that happens, now that is where they used to collaborate with the ENT department. So where the child needs to use hearing aid if it's required, because we have degree of hearing loss. So if the hearing loss is not profound, severe to profound, the individual can actually benefit from hearing loss. Then if that happens, then cochlear implant can also still help. It's actually an advanced technology that helps persons with a hearing loss to actually gain speech and hear. It bypasses the work of the ear. So it's been, in fact, you see the chip here on the head this way, then now the sound wave now go through that chip, not going through the ear. So it helps the individual to actually, hear also, but very expensive anyways. Then after that must have been done, now where we have serious help is also in terms of sign language. Like I understand sign language very well. So in terms of sign language too, they should have sign language interpreters in the school who will also be, training the student and also interpreting during classroom, especially those who cannot acquire the hearing aid and also the cochlear implant. So sign language interpreters are actually very essential for children with hearing loss. And also the classroom arrangement should support them. First, they should sit in the front. There's something called hard of hearing and total deafness. Hard of hearing is that this person have element of hearing, but not totally deaf, but deafness that this person does not hear at all. So the sitting arrangement should support these children. They should be in the front or second line of the seat, while the individuals with a normal hearing can be behind, so which will actually help out. And also, they should also encourage them to learn what we call lip reading. During my university days, I had a lecturer, two lecturers. They were totally deaf, not even hard of hearing, but they were talking, they were speaking, but they learned that through lip reading. So they can read your lips. We don't sign for them during classes. We'll talk, but you talk slowly, so you don't wrap your words. So they read your lips. They may not get everything, but at least they will get 60% of what you're saying. They'll be able to sum up with what you're saying and respond to you. So persons with hearing loss can live a normal life. They can even be a doctor. They can even be a lawyer. They can even be journalists. They can do anything on earth so far they have the right support. And also awareness creation should be very important too in the school. Sometimes, parents can also live in denial. It's not my child. No, that's not possible. But that's why schools should collaborate with the healthcare experts, especially the ENT and pediatricians, so that, as parents are coming in case if you have those who are living in denial, you should be able to have these people that are supposed to educate them, enlighten them, to help them accept easily, because living in denial will harm these children later in life. And for parents, we cannot live with our children all through our life. One day we'll join our Creator, and what happens when we're no longer with them? So we need to actually accept any symptom early, whether from the school indications or from the hospital, or even from the neighbor who have seen your child exhibiting some symptoms. When the person approaches you, accommodates with love and care that this person loves my child, so that this child will be able to actually achieve potentials. Like I said before,
I get that.
Persons with hearing loss can live a normal life and achieve his potential. So further is early intervention and support.
Very good point. I like the fact that you've practicalized it for educational institutions that may feel, okay, they do not know what to do. I love the fact that you said being intentional. I'm an advocate for the Sustainable Development Goals, and the motto is to leave no one behind. So, being intentional with them, putting them in front, also them learning skills like lip reading, and also being intentional with sign language. In fact, I believe all programs, everything should have sign language.
Of course,
So I really am quite happy with those. And I feel like, especially in the day and age that we live in, especially in the global space, you have people with different, different abilities, living normal lives, whereas in Nigeria we're restricted. And then another very interesting point I know that is in school, sometimes we end up, well, I don't, but I know that the projection of naughtiness or different use of harsh words is being meted out to children sometimes that have these issues and they don't even know. They would call them foul names and say, you don't listen or you hear, not knowing that they actually truly do have these issues. So the suggestion you made about having the tests at the entry level is very, very important. So that brings me to my next question. The different, as we wrap up this conversation, the next stakeholders I'd like to know is when it comes to the policymakers, the government, how would you say that, they should make an enabling society and country for Nigerians, especially, with the elections coming up and, everyone enjoying their franchise. But this issue could be a problem. How would you advise our government, our decision makers, our policy makers to ensure that this is put in intentionally, leaving no one behind?
Thank you. I love this question. There's something called inclusion. And people with speech and hearing problems often feel excluded from several governmental programs and societal programs. But when we put system in place that will help them, they will feel included, and it will also help. I do say that, and we do say that no one is above disability until death. so far you are alive, you are still exposed to facing one or two health conditions or disability. So why not we create programs that will help them? One thing that government can do to actually, I like being proactive, not being reactive. One is that, government should enact policy that there must be hearing tests from birth, from every hospitals. So there should be a policy, both in this, that government should actually implement, enforce, that no school have rights to actually reject or eject or expel any student because of disability or hearing or speech problems, even in the workplace, all right? Now, there's something also we call accommodation and modification. Accommodation is that we know that you have this disorder, but we can actually allow you to do this. For example, now in the school, if exam is set for 1 hour, this child should actually be given up to maybe 1 hour, 30 minutes to finish up the exam, or even 2 hours, right? If the child cannot actually read because of a disability, but the child can actually type, cannot write, but can type, then allow the child to type the question, the answers rather than forcing the child to actually write. We call it a dysgraphia, those who cannot write or have a problem with writing. But if the child can type, allow the child to type. All right? So we must not be that and follow that routine. And also, in terms of awareness, government should create awareness for persons with disabilities, persons with speech and language problems, so that they can actually, individuals can know and accept them early. Most importantly, these hearing aids are very expensive. Cochlear implants is in millions. Hearing aid can be from 500 to 1M, 2M, depending on the brand
and
the type.
The government must do something.
Subsidy that can actually help individuals.
Yes.
Yeah, so that is actually very important. If this can be done by the government, it will actually go a long way, especially the low-income earners. So it can help them to actually live a normal life. Like I said before, nobody is above disability until death.
Thank you so much for that.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
It's been so insightful. In fact, some parts of it has been quite emotional, hearing, the stigma, the stigma attached to some of these issues that you've mentioned. So if there are schools that are out there that, might not know how to deal or have special needs right there. You have the Sunset speech out there, and they're ready to collaborate. They're ready to give you all of that you need. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much
for that. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you.
So, as you've heard and as you know, try to be nice, try to understand people, and know that people have different abilities. The fact that, someone might not project using one particular organ might not make them different. And we now live in an age that we have access to technology, so write nobody off. That was Dr. Charles giving us all the details that we need about World Speech Day, about World Hearing Day, and we're going to be having another very interesting discussion, and this one is also another topic that a lot of Nigerians are now getting knowledge about, but some still find it very hard to deal with. We're talking about the topic of autism. That's correct. We'll be giving you details on that right here, still with him. So make sure you stay tuned to Health Digest so that you do not miss that. It's been such a pleasure. Stay blessed and not stressed. I'm Ukemere Tokwa. Thanks for staying tuned. Bye-bye.